Hello and welcome to the Get Real Football Experts podcast, schedule rundown edition, AFC North Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm your host Louie DiBi at DB Sports Talk. That's where I am on Twitter. We're starting off the AFC today. Dave is doing the Cincinnati Bengals and Cleveland Browns, and I'm doing the Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers. And today we'll start off with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that last year we had some ups and downs, 8-8, a lot of injuries. So Ben Roethlisberger and their offensive line, of course. So this year they're looking to bounce back. Obviously, some new pieces in place with Le'Veon Bell as their new starting running back, the second-round pick out of Michigan State. They lost Mike Wallace. We'll have Marcus Wheaton out of Oregon State as their new third receiver behind Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown. So it's a new team, of course, and it's going to be interesting to see how they develop. And obviously the defense, they lost James Harrison. They released him, and he went to the Bengals, AFC North Division rival. So let's kick it off with the Steelers. Week 1, they're home against the Tennessee Titans, a team that they lost to on Thursday night last year. They lost to Matt Hasselbeck and that Titans team, who is a lot different now with Jake Locker at the helm, new guards, and Chance Warmack and Andy Levitre. But I think the Steelers are going to win this one. Ben Roethlisberger was coming off one of the best years of his career before getting hurt last year, and I think that that really helped him. And so I think that'll really help him into this year. Todd Haley obviously is the offensive coordinator, and they do butt heads a little bit. It's a ground and pound offense, is exactly what they're going back to this year with Le'Veon Bell, and obviously losing Mike Wallace makes you want to run the football a little bit more. With the young linemen they have in Mike Adams and David DeCastro, hopefully those guys will develop into what they were last year as rookies. But I think they'll win this game. I think as long as they shut down Chris Johnson, I think Jake Locker won't be able to pass enough past that good secondary, which is a little bit older, but it still has Ryan Clark and Troy Polamalu and Ike Taylor at the helm of it. So I think they'll be all right. So I think they will start off 1-0. So 1-0. So week 2, they're away against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're going to lose this game and drop to 1-1. The Bengals have been having some hard times against the Ravens and the Steelers for the past couple of years. I think they're going to start off to a good one here. It is in Cincinnati, so it's going to be a tough one for Pittsburgh to pull out. But Andy Dalton and AJ Green is one of the best young duos of the league now. So if they can shut down AJ Green, I think they might have a chance. Obviously, they've been Jarvis Green Ellis and Giovanni Bernard at running back, so that's probably their weak link compared to what they have in the passing game, with also Tyler Eifert, their first-round pick tight end out of Notre Dame. I think the Steelers dropped to 1-1. So week 3, they're home against the Chicago Bears. Very similar teams, very grinded-out type offenses, and two really good but veteran defenses with Lance Briggs at the helm of the Bears and Lawrence Timmons and with the Steelers, Lamar Woodley. I think the Steelers are going to win this one and improve to 2-1. I think Jay Cutler obviously is in another year for the Bears where he's really got to stay healthy. If Ike Taylor, I think the key matchup here is Ike Taylor versus Brandon Marshall. If they can take out Brandon Marshall, Matt Forte is obviously a very good running back, but the Steelers' defensive line is really good still with Casey Hampton in the middle. If they can shut down Brandon Marshall, I think that'll be key, and it's going to be a really low-scoring game to me. I think this might 10-3 around might be the score with these two defenses, how good they are. So I think the Steelers are going to improve to 2-1 going into Week 4, where they're away against the Minnesota Vikings, a team that made the playoffs last year. They're 10-6. Adrian Peterson had one of the best years of any football player in the career in history. Came off a torn ACL 2 years ago, to be 9 yards short of Eric Dickerson's rushing record in a season with over 2,000 yards. I think the Steelers are going to win this game at 3-1. I think Christian Ponder is another year of developing, and I think Ben Roethlisberger is going to attack that secondary that they lost Antoine Winfield, and they did add Xavier Rhodes. It's a young but very different defense. If Mike Adams can shut down Jared Allen, I think Ben Roethlisberger will be given time to make plays around the pocket and give his receivers the ball. And against that, so I think the key is the receivers versus the secondary on the Steelers offensive side. And I think they're going to be all right and improve to 3-1 heading into their bye week, Week 5. So going into Week 6, they're away against the New York Jets. Messy team right now. Geno Smith versus Mark Sanchez is the battle and heading into training camp. And I think that the Jets, with the running backs Mike Goodson and Chris Ivory, those aren't really assured safe spots at the starting positions, and that's why I think the Steelers are going to win this one. The Steelers have more things intact. The defense, obviously, for the Jets is really good. I think it's going to be another low-scoring game. Antonio Cromartie and D. Milliner in the secondary are really good, and then Laron Landry did leave. They lost Laron Landry to the Indianapolis Colts. I think the key here is the pass rush versus Mark Sanchez or Geno Smith. Geno Smith is a mobile guy, so you want to keep him in the pocket if he's starting. And I think the Steelers are going to win this one, improve to 4-1. They're a better team, and they're ready to compete in the playoffs rather than the Jets, who are a team that honestly I don't think are even going to have 6 wins this season. So Week 7, they're home against the Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens, but a very different looking Ravens team. They, lost Ray Lewis, Paul Kruger, Donnell Ellerbe, Ed Reed, but added Marcus Huff, Ellis Dumerville, Chris Canty. A lot of new places, a lot of new pieces in place. So, they're very different. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how they develop and how the chemistry works out, because it's kind of tough. Here in Week 8, they're halfway through the season. I think the Steelers are going to lose this game and drop to 4-2. I think Joe Flacco, coming off probably one of the best playoff performances I've ever seen, 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. I think it's going to be huge for the Ravens. I think he's going to have to carry them all year long, because that defense, it's different. And I don't know how they're going to hold up, but obviously they have Terrell Suggs. I think Terrell Suggs versus Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Adams is the key. I think the Dumerville and Suggs are really going to go after that weak offensive line of the Steelers, and I think the Ravens are going to get the win, and the Steelers will drop to 4-2. But that's not a bad record. Heading into Week 8, halfway through the year, they're away in the black hole against the Oakland Raiders, a team they can never seem to beat. In Oakland, it's just always tough for the Steelers to do that, and I think I think they're going to pull out here. I think this is a much different team that the Raiders than they've had before. The Raiders really, they don't have a lot of pieces. Matt Flynn is an unproven quarterback. He's only started 2 years under his belt. Darren McFadden's normally injury prone. That defense, Charles Woodson, but they lost Richard Sherman, Desmond Bryant. They don't really have much pieces in place there. Also losing Rolando McClain, who's now retired at the age of 24, I believe, pretty young. But I think the Steelers are going to win this one. You got to attack, I think, the defensive line. Le'Veon Bell's key here versus that Raiders defensive line. The secondary for the Raiders is probably their strong spot out of the entire team. They have, Charles Woodson, he's a very versatile, can play outside, slot, safety, nickel. So, and DJ Hayden, their first-round pick, if he can stay healthy, out of the University of Houston, was a second corner taken in the draft. Should be pretty good. Charles Woodson will put him under his wing. But I think that's the key. Le'Veon Bell, pounding ground. I think it's still going to be a low-scoring game because of how much the Steelers are going to run the ball, in my opinion. And I think they're going to pull out the win and improve to 5-2. So they are heading into Week 9 away against the New England Patriots. Not the same Patriots team, though, that you're normally seeing. Still Tom Brady at the helm, but they do not have Aaron Hernandez, as we all know the situation with him. Rob Gronkowski probably will be playing by now. He does have some injuries to be concerned. I'm sure Danny Amendola will be hurt by this time, just my prediction, as he really cannot stay durable, as he showed in St. Louis. But I think they're going to win this game, and my reason is I really like what the Patriots defense did. They're really overshined as of right now because of all what's going on with the Tebow factor and Aaron Hernandez and whatnot. But they signed Adrian Wilson, a hard-hitting safety veteran from the Arizona Cardinals. I think it's going to be huge to replace Patrick Chung, who's now in Philadelphia, and Devin McCourty. Then your secondary, you have Kyle Arrington at corner, and you have Aqib Talib. Two really solid corners, in my opinion. I think that's why I think the Patriots are going to win this game. I think it's going to be defensive, but I think Tom Brady in the end is going to come down and win it. Stephen Ridley versus that defense is going to be key. Versus that defensive line, Ryan Kriegel, Fear the Beard, and Casey Hampton are going to have their work cut out, because I really like Ridley and Shane Vereen, a really good duo. So I think the Patriots are going to win and improve and the Steelers will drop to 5-3. It's just tough to see what Brady's. It's going to see. The Steelers defense, their secondary is older, and there's probably going to be injuries. Troy Polamalu and Ryan Clark both battle injuries, and I think the Patriots are going to win this one, and the Steelers will drop to 5-3. So they're heading into Week 10, home against the Buffalo Bills. Very different team. E.J. Manuel, first-round pick, 16th overall. They got him. They moved back to get him. C.J. Spiller, one of the best running backs in the game now. Last year coming off a really good year. Steve Johnson, Robert Woods. All these new pieces in place on offense, and defensively, they still have yet to pay Jarius Byrd he'll probably be playing by this time. But I think the Steelers are going to win this game. They're a better overall team. I think they'll improve to 6-3. The key here is Stephon Gilmore versus Antonio Brown. If you can get really Gilmore on his heels, it's really going to help the other receivers out as well, like Marcus Wheaton, Plaxico Burress, and Emmanuel Sanders, because really the Bills are weak on the other side, as they have Aaron Williams or an unproven guy in Justin Rogers at the other side of corner. So I think the Steelers are going to win this game. Ben Roethlisberger is going to have to attack that weak secondary. They have Denora Searcy, a new starting safety. They have 2 new spots in the secondary, and also Jarius Byrd, who has been holding out, even though he was tagged with the franchise tag. But the Steelers will win, and they'll be at 6-3, in really good shape to make a playoff push. They're Week 11. They're home against the Detroit Lions. Very disappointing year last year. They were 4-12. Calvin Johnson and Matt Stafford are one of the best duos in the NFL, though. Calvin Johnson, the best receiver in the game. That's going to be key. Ike Taylor versus Calvin Johnson. A lot of the secondary receivers are my key matchups, and I think that's really going to be huge, and I think the Lions are going to win it. And I think that if Calvin can really get going, that's going to allow Reggie Bush and Mikel Shore to excel. So I think the Steelers are going to lose this one and drop to 6-4. The Lions are going to have to beat some tough teams in order to make the playoffs, and I think it's going to be close. But I think Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley are really going to attack that offensive line in the middle, the interior of the line, go after Ben Roethlisberger, who might be battling injuries at this time, and also Ndamukong Suh versus Le'Veon Bell is another key spot that you're going to have to look at watching it in this game. So they're going to head into Week 12 at 6-4. They're away against the Cleveland Browns, who have been the doormat of the division as of late, but they do have some really good spots. They have a really good young receiver in Josh Gordon and Greg Little. They have obviously a franchise player in Trent Richardson at running back. Brandon Whedon, 29 years of age already, and he is only a second-year pro for the Browns at quarterback. He had 14 interceptions to only 12 touchdowns last year, so that's not a good ratio for him. You'll look for him to improve, but I don't think it's enough to stop this really good Steelers team, and I think the Steelers will go to 7-4. And there's not much to say. I think it is in Cleveland. DeQuell Jackson and that defense are pretty good in Cleveland. Joe Hayden, obviously, as well. But I think that the Steelers are going to pull this out and go to 7-4. Week 13, they're away against the Baltimore Ravens. I think that they're going to win this game. I think both teams are going to win key matchups away, and I think that's exactly what happened last year too. So people that have been commenting that how can you have this team losing at home yet a winning away? I think it's different. It's the NFL, and it's very different to see what happens. And I think the Steelers got to at least split with the Ravens if they want to compete for the division, and the Bengals, of course, and get into the playoffs. And I think they're going to do that and improve to 8-4. I really like what the Steelers have done this year. Mike Tomlin and Todd Haley are very good coaching staff, and obviously Dick LeBeau, one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. So, that defense and that offense are both going to be very different. But at the same time, it's another year under experience under Todd Haley and Mike Tomlin, of course. And I think they're going to improve to 8-4 going into Week 14 versus the free agency champion Miami Dolphins, who made a huge splash in free agency, getting Donnell Ellerbe. They got Mike Wallace from the Pittsburgh Steelers, who will be returning against his former team. And they have a new running back in Lamar Miller as their starter, as Reggie Bush has been shipped off to Detroit, Motown. But I think the Steelers are going to lose this one. Ryan Tannehill had an actually impressive rookie year last year. Obviously, he was overshined because of what Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, and RG3 had done. And I think the key is Donnell Ellerbe versus Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is probably going to be very comfortable at this time. I think he's going to be close to rushing for 1,000 yards. I think the Dolphins got to win this one. The Dolphins and Steelers are going to be competing for a wild card spot, and I think the Dolphins are going to take it in a close one. And so the Steelers will drop to 8-5. The Dolphins are a very balanced team. They have a good secondary. They got Brent Grimes in that secondary to replace Sean Smith, who's off to Kansas City. So I think they're in a really good spot. And I think the Steelers will drop, as it's probably going to take a lot to stop Mike Wallace, and I think he's going to get the best of Ike Taylor or whoever he's being covered by in that Steelers secondary. So Week 15, and I'm sure Troy Polamalu will give Wallace a bit of a big hit, if you know what I mean. So they're Week 15. They're home. Cincinnati Bengals. Probably this is probably the game that's going to decide the division, because I think the Steelers are going to be ahead of the Ravens, and maybe the Bengals. But the Bengals are going to lose. The Steelers are going to win, take it 9-5. Like I said, they have to split with both the division foes and the Browns, but I think they're going to sweep the Browns, as I do have it. And I think they'll improve to 9-5. They got to stop, like I said, A.J. Green, but also that run game. Jarvis Green-Ellis had a really good game last year against the Steelers. He had over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. Got to stop him and Giovanni Bernard. And I think they're going to be really good this year, the Bengals and the Steelers. It's going to be a close, tough game, but I think that the Steelers are going to win it. Quick input, I just got a latest update. Victor Cruz has been signed to a 5-year tenure for the Giants, so that's really good for them. They just locked him up. That if you heard the noise, that update, that's what it was. So they're going to head into Week 16. They're away against the Green Bay Packers. Former Super Bowl champion Aaron Rodgers versus that secondary is key. They really got to get to him at the pass rush. They lost James Harrison. That's going to really hurt them. I mean, the Packers' offensive line is an okay one. So the key is Kriegel and Casey Hampton and Lawrence Timmons versus that offensive line, because you cannot give Aaron Rodgers time or he will torch you. And I think that the Steelers are going to lose this one. It's in Lambeau Field. It's tough. The Packers are going to be looking to get a bye week, first round bye in the playoffs. So heading into Week 17, they're probably going to have to win this one in order to make the playoffs. Maybe not, as it might take only a 9-7 record. They're home against the Cleveland Browns at a 9-6 record, and I think they're going to pull out and improve to 10-6. Steeler fans, I think that's a good record for you guys. I think it's maybe a stretch for some people because they do have some new pieces in place. Ben Roethlisberger might be battling some injuries, and so will that defense, which is older. But the key here, I forgot to mention, guys, rookie Jarvis Jones out of Georgia. The Steelers' first-round pick to replace James Harrison. If he can get after Brandon Weed and make him uncomfortable, the Steelers should have an easy win here to seal a playoff spot and improve to 10-6. So that's going to do it for today's Get Real Football Experts Schedule Rundown edition. Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll be here next for the Baltimore Ravens, Super Bowl champions. Dave has posted the Bengals, and we'll get up the Cleveland Browns soon. Follow me on Twitter at DB Sports Talk. Follow my partner in crime, Dave Chris, at Dave Chris Sports. Check out my blog at eagleeyefocusportstalk.blogspot.com. Nope, eaglesportstalk.blogspot.com. My apologies. I'll be having my first Eagles podcast Wednesday at 7 o'clock sharp. We'll have eaglesaddict.com on. Check out Dave and Brendan are the front of the podcast at realbillsnow.blogspot.com. They're interviewing a future Buffalo Bill, and that'll be interesting to see. And we'll be here next time for the new schedule rundowns. Also, we got a new thing. It's called Duel and Discuss. It's a Madden thing. We just discuss NFL topics and play some Madden. It's relaxed, and it's a good thing for you guys to watch. So training camp's coming up soon. Like I said, as the latest headlines, Victor Cruz is in a long-term deal with the Giants. That's going to do it. Thanks, football fans. Also, I'm putting in my plugs. I apologize for all the rushed plugins. But check out my articles at GetRealFootball.com too. It's a great website. That's who we work for. And we're bringing you all the latest NFL stuff. We're going to take a break as we are going away on a sports trip soon. So me and Dave are. So we'll be back after that with one more podcast. And that's going to be it. I hope you could take that all in in the midst of a minute. Thanks, football fans. It's been real.